So she was born in 1823 and born in Ohio, as were the other siblings of C.H. Moore. And then, Moore had made his way here to DeWitt County. And when Minerva met her to-be husband, John Bishop, she was actually living under Mr. Moore's roof at the time. At that point in time, Mr. Moore lived in a big brick house northeast of town. And John Bishop was a local grain and lumber dealer, had done quite well for himself. And John and Minerva were married in 1863. Now, by the time that Minerva would have married John, she would have certainly been considered an old maid by the standards of the day. She was 40 years old when they were married. So they married, and eventually they built the house that we know as the C.H. Moore Homestead, DeWitt County Museum. And what we know about Minerva, I think we would have all liked her. Minerva was very fond of gardening. She turned the grounds surrounding the house, which at that time was 5 acres, into what they called back in those days a horticultural showplace. People were just amazed at her gardening skills and her love of plants and whatnot.
According to Long, the second woman to live in the house was C.H. Moore's second wife. Long explains upon the passing of C.H. Moore's sister, Minerva, C.H. bought the property, then moved in.
The second lady of the house would have been Mr. Moore's second wife. Her name was Rose Onstein. So when Minerva passed away in 1880, not long after that, her husband, John Bishop, sold the house to Mr. Moore. And then Mr. Moore purchased the property and then did things to enlarge the house. He actually added the west wing of the house. Minerva had a greenhouse, and I came across an article in the old newspaper where Mr. Moore was removing the greenhouse, and then on the footprint of where the greenhouse was, erecting that 2-story library that everybody's so fond of at the house. He had been married to Rose by the time that he bought that house. Mr. Moore chose a very good wife when he chose Rose. She would have been the perfect choice for him. Rose was actually from Ohio, the same area where Mr. Moore was from. Mr. Moore had a brother who was married to Rose's sister. So Moore probably knew that second wife of his for quite some time. In fact, his first wife may have even known and, been friends with her. So Rose had not been married before her marriage to Mr. Moore. She would have been his social match. The fact that she did not bring children into the marriage might have been seen as a possible advantage. And she also would have been his intellectual match. Rose shared Mr. Moore's love of learning and books and current affairs and even politics. I think she followed a little bit. A very good choice there. So Mr. Moore passed away in 1901 at the house. Rose remained at the house as his widow until her passing in 1907. And she died in the house, and the funeral was held at the house.
C.H. Moore's son's widow also lived with Rose after his passing, according to Long, finding information on Nellie, Moore's son's widow, while she did not have children when she was married, but several years later married an old friend who had 5 children.
When Rose was going through her widowhood period at the house, she was not residing there alone. There was another widow in the family, and her name was Nellie Piper Moore. And Nellie was married to C.H. Moore's son, Arthur. When Rose became widowed in 1901, it was only months later when Nellie became widowed, when her husband died. So the two ladies resided under one roof at the Homestead house. I always felt a little sad for Nellie, and Nellie was a tough one to research. And it's difficult with women. You have maiden names and then married names, and what if they married again and you don't know what name you're looking for? Whereas, when you're researching men, that surname is their surname for life, right? Mm-hmm. So Nellie was a tough one. I felt sorry for Nellie because she and Arthur Moore did not produce any children. So there were no children blessed that union. And I knew that, she had been widowed and, would have been considered, kind of a young widow. Spent her time living in the house with Mr. Moore's widow, and then Mr. Moore's widow died in 1907. So what happened to Nellie? And I just felt so bad that she never had any children. And I wondered about this for years and years. And then finally I had a breakthrough. And it turns out that Nellie had a very happy ending. So Nellie was from the Macomb area. And somehow she had met, Arthur Moore and married him. But the Moores did have a lot of ties to the Macomb, Illinois area. And so what happened was, years after her becoming a widow, Nellie was somewhere out west attending something along the lines of think of a World's Fair or a big exhibition. These things were very popular, back in that era. And just happened to run in to an old childhood friend who was also from Macomb. And this childhood friend had recently been divorced and was left with 5 children to raise. Guess what? She ended up marrying him, and then Nellie had her own family. So I was so happy that Nellie had a happy ending.
Long points out when the museum reopens in April, the stories of these 3 women and a few others can be told by taking a tour of the museum. For reopening dates, museum hours, and admission prices of the museum, just visit chmorehomestead.org or find them on Facebook. The spring trout season is right around the corner. April 6th opens the annual spring trout season. DNR Conservation Police Captain John Williamson encourages fishermen to get a jump on things and get that fishing license renewed and that trout stamp.
April 6th, the trout season opens. You can make sure you have your inland trout stamp. Keep 5 a day, and catchable trout are released and opens up. I think it's at 5 a.m., but check the signs, make sure what time it opens up, but that's always a good time and really popular around Weldon Springs. So basically a week or two before they come in and they release catchable size trout, and then the lakes close down until the lake opens for the trout season, and you're able to fish for trout, which is something you don't usually get to do in the state of Illinois, but they pick out 20 or 30 areas in the state and do this, and that money is, those trout are paid for by the money that people buying their inland trout stamps. So you can get it any vendor you get your license from. So get that, you can get it online also. So get that license stamp, and then you're good to go. So April 1st, you'll need your new fishing license. So a new fishing license and your trout stamp, and you're good to trout fish.
Now, according to Captain Williamson, Weldon Springs has a spring trout season and a fall trout season. He indicates other than the middle of the summer, trout fishing is generally good at the springs.
But in that springtime, that's right when the crappie spawn is. So we're kind of shifting our parks are getting busy. So we're kind of shifted around, but we do try to keep an eye on the trout pond. Weldon Springs has a spring trout season and a fall trout season. So their fall trout season, they release those. And when we do have ice, which this year we didn't have too much, there's a lot of guys that are catching a lot of trout through the ice because of the fall release up there. So, I've heard the fisheries biologists say that there's quite a few trout in there. I don't know how many exactly, but I know sometimes during the winter when they're on the ice, they're hard to catch anything else but trout. It goes down for like a week just because those trout are put in there. They let them get used to the lake, let them disperse around the lake, and then they open up trout season.
Trout season again opens April 6th, and those fishing licenses come up for renewal on April 1st. Visit dnr.illinois.gov for more information on the closest trout fishing site near you. Just a few weeks ago was Slam the Scam Day, and Social Security was heavily promoting imposter scams, those impersonating a Social Security representative. A similar nefarious effort is often made to impersonate someone from Social Security to help you with services that are otherwise free. Jack Myers with Social Security says those types of efforts can come with penalties to the individual or individuals if apprehended.
It is an excellent companion topic, I guess is a good way to put it, because it's not exactly the same thing, right? So there's a difference sometimes between a scam and then misleading advertising and communication, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't try to stop these misleading advertisers and communication. So we're working on that as well. Social Security and the Office of Inspector General work together to try to protect you from these types of things, these advertising communications. Sometimes they're scams. Sometimes I say they maybe don't elevate to the level of a scam, but they are things to be aware of. And there's a particular part of the Social Security Act, Section 1140, that allows the Office of Inspector General to impose penalties against anyone who engages in misleading Social Security-related advertising or imposter communications. And that's kind of interesting because it enables penalties to be imposed without having to go through the same process as like a criminal prosecution type thing. So it's a different weapon that the OIG can use against those who engage in this type of misleading communication. And, something I can think of, a good example I would mention is that, sometimes you'll search for information about how to change a name on a Social Security card or something like that. Maybe you're recently married and you've changed your name and you want to update your Social Security card. Well, you can do all that through us for free at Social Security.
Myers explains Social Security may impose a penalty against anyone who is charging a fee for a service that Social Security provides free of charge without providing clearly visible notice that Social Security provides the service for free.
But sometimes you end up finding the website of a third-party service that wants to basically give you the form that we give you for free, have you fill it out, and then charge you to submit it to us, okay? So that is not okay. That's not something that they should be doing if they don't clearly define that service they're offering is available free of charge through Social Security. So there are some technicalities that they would have to follow there, but what happens more times than not is they try to kind of pass themselves off as the official way to do it, collect that fee from you. Now that's where I kind of say it may not be necessarily a scam per se, because they're not necessarily trying to steal your information, but at the very least it's unethical because they're trying to charge you for something you could do for free through us. While the damage might be limited to the fee that they charge, it is still something that we want to protect people against.
If you receive misleading or suspicious Social Security-related advertisements or communications, contact the Office of the Inspector General at oig.ssa.gov or send an email to oig.1140@ssa.gov.
And also, there is also the possibility that maybe they aren't really going to try to help you do that, and maybe they are just trying to steal that information from you. So, just be kind of looking out for that sort of thing. If you see that somewhere, you can report that, oig.ssa.gov, just like we talked about in the first segment. But there's another way you can do this specifically. You could send an email to oig.1140@ssa.gov. So that's that section 1140 of the Act. So oig.1140@ssa.gov, and that's where you could, if you wanted to, you could report misleading or suspicious Social Security-related advertisements or communications. So, just something to be aware of so that you can put a stop to it if you come across it and, hopefully prevent other people from falling victim to it.
It helps if you can gather as much information as possible, like a screenshot of the page, the website address, or social media link, and how you came across it. For emails and text messages, capture the entire message and any message links. For telephone solicitations, note the caller ID. It may or may not be spoofed, and any company name or callback number the caller or recorded message provides. To learn more, check out the publication What You Need to Know About Misleading Advertising. It's available at ssa.gov/pubs. News time is 25 minutes after 7 o'clock here on this Monday. We've got more coming your way next on the morning show.
March into Baum Chevrolet Buick and march out with a new Chevrolet. This is Scott Baum from Baum Chevrolet Buick here in Clinton. We have a good selection of Silverado trucks to fit your everyday work needs. We have 1500s, 2500s, and 3500s in regular cabs, double cabs, and crew cabs. And if you're looking for good fuel economy, check out our 3-liter diesel and our 1500 Silverados boasting a combined 26 miles per gallon rating. BaumChevyBuick.com, right from the start.
News time is 26 minutes after 7 o'clock on this Monday. Again, I'm Seth Lawrence with you folks today for this expanded local newscast. Illinois FFA President Thaddeus Bergschneider is making the most of his Illinois Ag Legislative Day experience. He wants to see the ag education line item increased and spoke with the RFD radio network about the issue.
I'd say my main point is remarkable growth. We've seen a lot of growth in agricultural education over the past year, and our members and our educators and our chapters growing. And then the responsibility falls on us to take that growth, keep its momentum moving, and to make sure that we have all of our students in FFA participating and taking advantage of all the opportunities we have.
Line item important, right? So elaborate a little bit about why line item is so important to the Illinois FFA and ag education cause.
Yep. So the main change we're seeing with the line item and the need to increase from $7 million to $10 million is because of the 3 Circles grant. Agriculture teachers in Illinois do not teach a regular teacher's year. They're not teaching during the school year. They have hours in the summer. They go to state convention. They help students with their record books. They work outside of the classroom more than anyone. And so when the state can help agricultural education by giving those teachers extra compensation, that's what allows ag education to keep on going. And with the line item, we need the increase from $7 million to $10 million so that 3 Circle grant can keep on going and ag teachers can be compensated for the work they do.
Bergschneider will finish up his term in June. The Illinois Ag Legislative Day was held last week in Springfield. Demand remains strong for large animal vets in Illinois, and the Illinois Farm Bureau continues to promote the iVet program, says the organization's Tasha Bunting.
That's right. So Illinois Farm Bureau supports the iVet program, which is the Illinois Veterinary Education Training Program. And so Illinois Farm Bureau provides a low-interest loan to students that are in vet school who are looking for other financial opportunities to help further their education. And so this is a great opportunity for us to help make that connection to vet students and keep them engaged and help get them back in rural communities where they can practice and service our livestock producers. It is a challenge for a lot of livestock producers throughout the state of Illinois and a lot of different locations to find a vet that has the time to make farm call visits regularly, but also in case of an emergency. So this is just one opportunity for Farm Bureau to be able to help kind of partner those areas where there is a need with students that are looking at their future and putting their dollars behind that program. So the students would apply at the end of their first year of vet school. So the application period that you mentioned opens up later on this month, and then they have until the middle of May to get their application submitted to Illinois Farm Bureau. And then the iVet committee, which is made up of directors of the Illinois Farm Bureau board, reviews the applicants and then selects candidates to bring in for an interview to determine if they would be a good fit for the program.
Information on the program can be found at ilfb.org/iVet. News time, 29 minutes after the hour. News brought to you by Baum Chevrolet Buick in Clinton. We stream to Facebook and YouTube. Brought to you by Peterson Insurance.
With SRN News, I'm Rich Thomason. It is wholly inappropriate. That's how Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu described Senate Democrat leader Chuck Schumer's call for new elections in Israel. As expected, Vladimir Putin has won Russia's presidential election. One person we know for sure who did not vote for Putin, the widow of the late opposition leader, Alexei Navalny. Dozens of American citizens are now back home safe from violence-racked Haiti, evacuated from the Caribbean nation aboard a U.S. government-chartered plane. It took a while, but a monster wildfire, the Smokehouse Creek blaze in the Texas Panhandle, is now 100% contained. And 3 people were killed, an infant hospitalized in critical condition after an SUV slammed into a bus shelter in San Francisco over the weekend. Wall Street, Dow futures up 82 points, NASDAQ futures ahead 216. This is SRN News. Live.
With SRN Sports, I'm Jeremy House. Men's top 25 college basketball, the reigning champions head into the NCAA championship tournament the way they ended it last year.
Connecticut is the top overall seed as the Huskies head the East. The defending NCAA champions and current Big East title holders are followed in the region seedings by Iowa State, Illinois, and Auburn. Houston tops the South region, and Marquette is second in the South, ahead of Kentucky and Duke. The Golden Eagles are the only team among that quartet to reach its tourney championship game. Purdue heads the Midwest region and is followed by Tennessee, Creighton, and Kansas. North Carolina is number 1 in the West, just ahead of Arizona, Baylor, and Alabama. Like the Cougars and Boilermakers, the Tar Heels failed to win their conference tournament. I'm Dave Ferry.
Yesterday, number 12 Auburn won the Southeastern Conference Championship tournament by defeating Florida, while 13th ranked Illinois won the Big Ten Conference Championship. This is SRN Sports. In the NBA, winners included Miami, Milwaukee, Dallas, Boston, Orlando, San Antonio, and Atlanta. In the NHL, the Vegas Golden Knights put up a crucial win against a fellow playoff contender.
The Golden Knights, trying to hang on to a playoff spot, rallied to beat the Devils, who were trying to move up into playoff position by a 3-1 score. All the scoring came in the third period, with New Jersey's Nico Hischier giving the Devils a 1-0 lead just 27 seconds in. But Vegas tied it nearly 2.5 minutes later on William Carrier's goal. Then, with just under 9 minutes left in regulation time, Jack Eichel beat Jake Allen for what proved to be the game-winning goal. William Karlsson then added an empty netter to seal it for the Golden Knights, who opened up a 5-point lead on the Wild for the final Western wildcard berth. I'm Tom Merriam.
Other winners were the New York Rangers, Carolina, Chicago, Winnipeg, Pittsburgh, and St. Louis. This is SRN Sports.
Time now for a look at sports. I'm Seth Lawrence with this report. The Clinton Maroons bats were cooking again on Saturday in an easy 19-1 win over Bloomington Cornerstone Christian Academy in non-conference high school boys baseball action in Bloomington. Colton Walker paced the Maroons offense, going 3 for 4 with 4 RBIs, 2 stolen bases, and 2 runs scored. Josh Bass was 3 for 4 with 3 RBIs and 2 runs scored. Ryan Pine and John Smock drove in 2 runs for Clinton. Smock had a double and drew a walk. Jack Manning struck out 8 in 3 scoreless innings. The sophomore allowed a hit and a walk. Since its opening day loss to Delavan, the Maroons have rattled off 3 wins in a row to go to 3-1 overall. They're back at home Tuesday, hosting Mahomet Seymour. Luke Teschke hit a go-ahead 3-run home run in the 6th inning of the second game of Monticello's Saturday's double dip, propelling them to a 7-2 win over Waterloo from Southern Illinois. With Monticello down 2-0 in the 6th inning, Teschke's home run started a 7-run inning for the Sages. The senior Illinois State commit struck out 13 in 6 innings of 2-run ball. 1 run was earned. Teschke allowed a hit and 2 walks. Brody Belledew finished off the game with a scoreless inning of relief. Matt Swartz, Coy Williams, and Rayden Colbert drove in runs in the 7-run frame as Monticello finished off a 3-0 weekend in Southern Illinois. In the first game Saturday, Monticello rolled Murfreesboro 10-0 in 6 innings thanks to another explosive inning. The Sages led 3-0 heading to the top of the 6th and scored 7 runs to go up 10-0. Carter Foran was 2 for 4 with 2 RBIs and 2 runs scored for the Sages. Eli Kraft was 2 for 3 with 2 RBIs. Colton Vance was 2 for 3 with an RBI and a run. Matt Swartz and Williams each scored twice in the first contest Saturday for Monticello. Dylan Brown, Ike Young, and Teschke had RBIs as well. Young threw 5 innings of shutout ball. The junior allowed 2 hits and walked 2 while striking out 3. Monticello goes to 5-0 on the season. They return home to take on Arthur Levington at Wood Hammond on Tuesday afternoon. Hear the action on 95.9 FM WEZC and online at DeWittDailyNews.com. The Maora-Forsyth Trojans offense started fast Saturday and never let up as they rolled to a 19-2 5-inning win over Champaign St. Thomas More in Champaign in non-conference high school boys baseball action Saturday. Zane Giles was 4 for 4 with 3 RBIs and 3 runs scored. Andy Munjoy was 3 for 5 with a double, 4 RBIs and a run scored. Miles Leach finished 3 for 5 with a double, 3 RBIs and a pair of runs scored. Connor Kelly was 1 for 3 with 3 RBIs, a double, and 2 runs scored. Caden Maurer finished 1 for 4 with 2 runs scored, and Mitch Williams was 2 for 3 and scored 4 times. Tate Brandenburg, Caden Rose, and Ace Giles drove in runs for Maora-Forsyth. Kelly struck out 7 in 5 innings for the Trojans. He allowed 2 unearned runs and 2 hits. Maora-Forsyth is 4-0 on the season. They will host Mount Zion today. The Normal Community Ironmen had a strong showing in a showcase tournament in Belleville this weekend with a 2-0 win over Belleville East and then an 11-0 win over Moline. Brady Bankston struck out 11 in 5 innings in the opener. The 6'6" senior allowed just a walk, facing 2 over the minimum. Riley Henderson was 2 for 4 with an RBI for Normal Community, and Sal Gora drove in the other run for the Ironmen. In its 11-1 win over Moline, Ryan Teeley finished 2 for 2 with a pair of RBIs and a pair of walks. Brady Burkhart was 1 for 4 with a pair of RBIs, and Lucas Drangwitz was 2 for 4 with a pair of runs scored. Caleb Hackman finished 1 for 3 with an RBI and scored twice. Owen Kavanaugh and Dexter Niekamp each scored 2 runs and drove in a run. Jake Branch went 3 2/3 innings, allowing a run on 4 hits with 2 walks and a strikeout. Hackman struck out 5 in an inning and a third scoreless relief. Normal Community is 4-0 on the season and will return to action for a 4 p.m. game at Morton High School on Wednesday. Lockport gradually pulled away from Normal West for a 7-2 win Saturday in non-conference high school boys baseball action from Normal. The Wildcats were paced by Brady Hart, who was 2 for 3 with an RBI. Braden Whitehead and Ryder Kuhn stole bases for Normal West, who falls to 0-3 on the season. They will host Pekin this afternoon. Terrence Shannon Jr. scored 34 points on 15 of 17 shooting from the free throw line, helping 13th-ranked Illinois outlast Wisconsin 93-87 in Big Ten Tournament Championship game action on Sunday. Marcus Damask added 26 points, 8 assists, and 7 rebounds. Dane Danger had 9 points and 7 boards for the Illini, who finished the regular season 26-8 overall and won their second conference tournament title in 4 years after shooting 16 of 26 in the second half. They faced a double-digit deficit in all 3 tournament wins. A.J. Storr had 24 points. Chucky Hepburn scored 20 for the Badgers, who went 7 for 20 from 3 after going 33 of 79 in their first 3 games. Shannon Jr. had 102 points in the 3 tournament games, 1 short of the Big Ten record, and was voted the most outstanding player. Keegan Murray had 103 points for Iowa in 2022, but the Hawkeyes played 4 games that year on the way to the tournament title. After celebrating in a shower of orange and blue confetti and cutting down the nets at the Target Center, the Illini hustled to a side room for the NCAA Tournament Selection Show, where they learned they are the number 3 seed in the East region with a first-round game on Friday against Morehead State. The defending champion Huskies earned the top seed in the NCAA tournament, joined by Houston, Purdue, and North Carolina as the number 1 seeds in a bracket that started going haywire even before the pairings were announced on Sunday evening. The Chicago Bears traded quarterback Justin Fields to the Pittsburgh Steelers Saturday night, clearing the way for them to draft a quarterback with the top overall pick, perhaps USC's Caleb Williams. The Bears receive a 2025 6th-round pick that could potentially become a 4th-rounder in return. Fields figures to back up 9-time Pro Bowler Russell Wilson, who signed a 1-year deal with the Steelers on Friday. Pittsburgh also traded Kenny Pickett to the Eagles once they added Wilson. Fields, the 11th overall pick in the 2021 draft by the Bears, and former GM Ryan Pace struggled as a rookie under former coach Matt Nagy. Though he produced big plays with his legs and arms, he did not develop as a passer the way the team hoped the past 2 years under Poles and coach Matt Eberflus. Fields completed 578 of 958 passes for 6,674 yards with 40 touchdowns and 30 interceptions in 3 seasons. He has just one 300-yard passing game for his career. Chicago could have gotten a big haul by trading the top pick, but it's not often the historically quarterback-challenged Bears have a chance to draft a prospect such as Williams. The 2022 Heisman Trophy winner is largely expected to be picked first overall after he threw 72 touchdown passes with just 10 interceptions in his past 2 seasons at USC after a year at Oklahoma. The trade of Fields comes 2 days after the Bears acquired Keenan Allen from the LA Chargers in their second deal for a star receiver in as many years. They dealt the number 1 pick in 2023 to Carolina for DJ Moore last March. The Bears also got the Panthers' first-rounder this year, and with Carolina finishing a league worst 2-15, Chicago wound up with the top pick this year. Denny Hamlin won the NASCAR Cup Series race at Bristol Motor Speedway Sunday, passing Joe Gibbs' teammate Martin Truex Jr. in the final laps for his 4th victory at the famed short track. Hamlin also won at NASCAR's Bull Ring last September. This one, though, was much different. Tire issues hampered most of the field all afternoon as only 5 cars finished on the lead lap. The first time that's happened in the Cup Series in 20 years. The Gibbs cars were the class of the field. It was Hamlin's 52nd career win, locking him into the playoffs. Brad Keselowski finished 3rd in a Ford. Alex Bowman was 4th in a Chevrolet, and Bowman's Hendrick Motorsports teammate Kyle Larson rounded out the top 5. The other 2 Gibbs drivers, driven by Ty Gibbs and Christopher Bell, finished 9th and 10th, respectively. The race was chaotic from the start, with cars burning through tires at an alarming rate. NASCAR issued each team an extra set. That gave them 11 sets in total, including the one used in qualifying. It made for 4 hours of chaos of tire management that gave control to drivers and crew chiefs. It also led to the most lead changes, 54 in NASCAR's short track history, breaking the previous mark of 40 set in 1991 at Bristol. NASCAR returned to normal for the first time this year in 4 years for the spring race. The track added red clay each of the last 3 years. Reviews were mixed as the novelty wore off. Subpar racing inside the high bank oval shaped overshadowed any excitement that came with the series running on dirt for the first time since 1970. In an effort to improve the racing and make sure the track had 2 equal lanes, workers put down a resin-based traction compound through the turns. It was far from perfect. Goodyear felt the need to make a rare statement during the race. Greg Stucker, the tire manufacturer's director of racing, said a test at Bristol Motor Speedway last year was intended to find a setup that led to more tire wear, but called the Sunday outcome too drastic. The rubber that was supposed to leave tires and adhere to the racing grooves came off in chunks. That looked like shredded cheese. Those loose pieces, called marbles, create a slippery situation around the half-mile track. Part of the culprit may have been the track's decision to put down a new and different traction compound. The series moves to its first road track of the season with a Sunday race at the Circuit of Americas in Austin, Texas. Get sports anytime at DeWittDailyNews.com.
This is staff meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki with your regional radio forecast. Cloudy skies expected today with daytime highs approaching 39. Northwesterly winds 10 to 20 miles per hour. Mainly clear skies tonight, lows level off around 26. Ample sunshine expected tomorrow, highs level off around 59. Hear weather twice an hour or online anytime at DeWittDailyNews.com. Right now, it's 26 degrees.
From the Country Financial Studio, I'm Rita Frazier. This is the RFD Livestock Report. Lana Shevlin is with the Illinois Pork Producers Association, always promoting pork. They have a new online store to promote their Pork, the One You Love campaign and merchandise, as well as the new Pork Power t-shirts.
Yes, so this year we're going to have the Pork Power t-shirts available for order on that store as well. It just kind of eliminates what we were doing in the past was housing all of the shirts here in our office, and then we